because there are so many students who have different abilities, and I think the need for acceptance is huge, not just at our school, but everywhere.
I feel that it's important to celebrate Disability History Week because it shows the evolution from where we were to where we are now. So it's important because we can show our community how at one point in time people were ostracized and pushed out of the community, whereas now we try to include everyone no matter what their disability may be.
I think it's important because it educates people on disabilities and the history of disabilities and how far advancements have come, not only in the treatments of the disability, but the treatment of the people with disabilities.
I wish they knew that it wasn't just a one-size-fits-all. So even in my classroom today, we were talking about two different students with autism. Somebody who's nonverbal versus somebody who's high-functioning. Same disability, different abilities. So visible is something you can see. So maybe something, again, what we were talking about today was someone who has a craniofacial disability, so their face was misshapen. Something invisible is still as important and could affect them just as much. I think when George Bush signed for the Americans with Disabilities Act, prior to then, everyone was segregated, and then that was the moment that everyone came together.
As a young mom who was already in school studying to be an educator, I think it took me a little bit by surprise, but there were signs that I had noticed. So I kind of decided that I was going to allow her to be who she needed to be in life in order to be the most successful. And so I tried to take how I felt in like my emotional state out of it so that she could excel in life and do well. It actually didn't. So I was already in college getting a teaching degree when my daughter was diagnosed. I always kind of knew that I wanted to work with kids. It did help in knowing that my experience would definitely work out better with children with disabilities, and I always loved kids who needed a little extra help. But I always actually did want to be a teacher and an educator, and I always wanted to work with children.
Absolutely it did. My original degree was history, and I was an educated history teacher, but there weren't any jobs when I was younger. Teaching jobs were very hard to get. And I went back to school for a special ed teacher because I didn't know what to do with a child with autism.
Hi, I'm Logan Wagner. I have autism, and basically it means because of that I move a lot, particularly when I'm nervous. I tend to lose focus a lot as well. I also tend to repeat things over and over again. When I get irritated, it really shows, you know. And wish people knew that autism isn't that bad, you know. People get bullied a lot.
My name is Megan, and I have anxiety, and I stress out all the time, and it's not fun and easy on me. And I wish sometimes I never had it, but it's really harder and confusing me. I wish other people knew that you're not alone for it at all, and all that.
Maddie Morelio, dyslexia, with numbers more than letters. It's not the hardest thing, but it's definitely not the easiest because I did struggle with it a lot when I was younger.
Tyler Juarez. I have autism, specifically Asperger's. Comes with a lot of anxiety-related things, and it doesn't let me focus sometimes. A lot of stuff like that. I like this week a lot, specifically because it is very good to learn about this kind of stuff, because it helps to know about this, especially for people like me.
My name is Colin, and my disability is I have ADHD, and I'm deaf, and I wish people would understand that other people to have other things different about other people, and other people should care about other people.
All right. I'm Mr. Owens, Dan Owens, whatever. I live with ADHD and autism. Growing up, I always had trouble, keeping focus on things I wasn't interested in, or turning my focus away from things that I was interested in. Hyperfocus is just as debilitating as not being able to focus. Other ways that it affects me is socially. I was always the weird kid. That's a little easier being a teacher because I can just info dump on people and be autistic in front of a group of people, and it just makes me a better teacher. But that's because of my job, because I'm an engineering teacher and I teach the weird stuff.
I have several disabilities. I have a joint disorder called EDS. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I also have fibromyalgia. So there are certain foods and activities that will really trigger some of my issues, so I have to be really careful as far as what food and drinks I have. Like, for instance, I can't drink caffeine because that will bring on a pain flare for me. Also, there are some things like lifting things that are too heavy will sometimes trigger things, or I have to watch the weather because when we're having cold, rainy days, that'll also trigger pain for me.
My cousin Kara, when I was a high school senior, she was in a car accident and she suffered a traumatic brain injury, a TBI. Completely changed her life. Honestly, they didn't even think she would survive. She had so many physical problems with broken bones, internal bleeding, swelling on the brain, but then she had to completely learn how to talk and walk again. They thought she would be paralyzed, and hearing loss and all of these physical, but then mental as well. She's to the point that she's going to be in an assisted living home, the rest of her life.
That even if you have a disability, you're still a person, and they should treat you the way they want to be treated.
They can be life-changing, and disabilities, kind of like I said, it could be something that you're born with, and it can affect you from the moment that you're born. It could happen to you at any point, and it could be very scary and life-changing. The most important thing, though, is it's not life-ending. Disabilities don't define who you are. They're a part of you. They're a part of what your life might be or what it might become, but that doesn't mean that your life is over or that you're not going to be successful or that you're not going to be happy. That, disabilities are a factor of life, but not the end-all be-all.
I think it's important that people keep in mind that not all disabilities are visible. There are definitely invisible disabilities. To look at me, you wouldn't think that there was anything wrong with me. And unfortunately, pain really dictates a lot of my life. So I think it's important to keep in mind that not everybody's disabilities are visible. To be their own self-advocate. So if you're ever at a doctor that isn't listening to you, find another one. Advocate for yourself and don't be afraid to do that because it's very important.
What I would tell kids who are growing up thinking they may have a disability is try to get support as soon as you can. It is far easier as a kid, as a student, to get the supports you need. It's much more difficult in your 30s to try and figure this stuff out. The resources are there. We have people throughout the school and around in the community that can get you those resources. It's easier to sign up and get them. Even if you don't think you need it in high school, get into the system, get a little bit of accommodation. It can help greatly in college if you're going that way. It can help later in life. If anything, it gives you language to communicate your needs, even in a personal level. I learned I was autistic and ADHD through my child. When he was getting diagnosed, I realized that it was me as well. And watching him grow up with the language he needs to advocate for himself, I'm super jealous. It took me till my 30s to do that, and learning from him and the language he's using is making my life easier, making it easier to communicate with my friends and my family and my kid and my students. So get help as soon as you can. Don't be ashamed of it. You can succeed with a disability. You can achieve things. And sometimes those, what we think of as a disability, can make us better at what our calling. So try to get help. Don't be ashamed of it. Talk to an adult that you think might relate. I'm here. If you have questions, I'll help.
See the human first, not their disability. All people have value and deserve to be treated with respect.
Practice the golden rule. Treat everyone as you'd like to be treated.
Find similarities with others and celebrate differences. We're all more alike than we are different.
Acknowledge that disabilities is a wide community that encompasses many types and affects people from all walks of life.
Don't shy away from people with disabilities. Interact with them as you would anyone else. If you're unsure how to interact, ask them or their aide or interpreter tactfully.
Include people with disabilities when having a conversation about disability.
Avoid pitying or patronizing people with disabilities. They are not the victim.
Always ask before offering assistance they may not need or want it.
Have conversations with people living with disabilities.
Be mindful of your word choice. Avoid language that is offensive, suggests a lack in something, or implies negative stereotypes.
Understand and respect the needs and concerns of the disabled community.
Stop and think before making or saying assumptions or prejudgments.
Encourage and buy products from people with disabilities.
Advocate for accessibility policies and laws that support the disabled community.
Share what you've learned with others to reduce stigmas around disabilities and stop ableism.
Learn and educate about your disabilities.
I think the most important thing is realizing these are people. They're no different than you and I. They're no different than anybody else. Everybody deserves respect and kindness and just understanding.